A warning. This episode contains stories about sexual assault and child abuse. As you will hear, today's guest has managed to reconcile the events of his past. Please know that this is his story and his story alone, and is in no way intended to suggest that other survivors should be in the same position.
The Imperfects presents a very special episode. Sit back, relax, and grab yourself your own cup of vulnerability. This is the Vulnerability House. Hello, everybody. I hope you have your teas filled to the brim. Not dangerously high to the brim, because tea's hot. Got to be careful. But I hope you've got your tea, whether it be green.
Especially in an earthquake. You don't want to have it all the way to the brim, do you?
Well, yeah. We're in Melbourne, and we had like a bloody 6 magnitude earthquake, biggest in 200 years, no big deal. But yeah, that was...
Survived a pandemic and an earthquake.
Yeah, throw it at us. But no, it's an exciting tea house today, Hugh, and I've been begging you to get this guy on for so long. I've been begging you, and you kept saying, "Nope, no way, Shelton, no way." Keep him well clear of this podcast. And I was like, "No, please, mate, please." And you're like, nah, this is my thing. I don't want him anywhere near it. But you know, you buckled under pressure.
Well, when I messaged him, and the guest today is a very special person, a very special friend of mine, is Martin Heppell, who is from the Resilience Project. He's a presenter and a partner in the Resilience Project. And so when I messaged him and said, "Would you like to come on the podcast?" he wrote back straight away, "Can't you get any guests? Can you not get any guests on that?" Which is not the case at all. Martin goes by the name of, I will refer to him throughout this presentation as his nickname, which is Rack, which has all types of dubious connotations. Yeah. And just to be very clear, there's nothing dubious about that. In fact, Rack, welcome. And do you want to start off by explaining where you got the nickname Rack from?
Yes,
Rack?
Legend. Nothing dodgy. Nothing dodgy. I have an ugly head, and I had a skinhead with a pair of scissors. That was a friend's sister did it for me, and I was playing at St Kilda at the time, and I rocked on up to training Danny Frawley, the late Danny Frawley and Kane Taylor. I walked on in and they said, "Goodness me, that is the ugliest head I've ever seen in my life. You look like a boy with a raccoon's head." And so from there I was Raccoon. And I've been Raccoon since 1993, to the point where my wife calls me Rack. My kids call me Rack. My mum and my dad sometimes call me Rack. All my mates call me Rack.
Good.
And whenever I meet someone new, they go worst case scenario. And I'm not even going to go to any of those worst case scenarios. But they go there thinking that that's why I've acquired that nickname, which is totally false. It's because I've got an ugly head.
Yeah.
So that's
good to clarify.
Bloody oath it is. Yeah.
I didn't even, I mean, this is great that you're here. I didn't know that you played Did you play footy? How long did you play footy for?
And before Martin jumps in here, and he also played for Melbourne, right?
What?
But I was...
How long ago?
A long time. I was terrible. I played 3 seasons, 2 at St Kilda, 1 at Melbourne. So it was back in the 90s when I was, but no.
So who were you, sorry to just go a quick footy tangent. So who was on your team? What era? What
St Kilda was 93, 94 and Melbourne was 95. So it was, Tony Lockett, Robert Harvey, Nicky Wimar, Danny Frawley, all that type of stuff, and then Gary Lyon and
so
Steins,
Jimmy Steins.
Yeah.
Melbourne. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Now I respect you. Okay, great.
You shouldn't, and you won't by the end of this.
No, that's amazing. Oh, cool. Okay. Well, no, it's so cool. I mean, this is the first time we've met. Can I call you Rack straight off?
Mate, 100%, mate. Go for it. I love it.
Wow.
No problem.
It's quite freeing.
Hey, it is. Like, embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. So,
Well, just apologies up front then if I overuse your name, Rack. Like if I ever say Rack in this, it might. I'm just forcing it. It's just a fun
it's
name
okay.
to say.
Yeah.
So Rack joined the Resilience Project probably. He was kind of like the first person to officially join the Resilience Project. For a long time, it was me running around doing these talks, and the demand was so great. And people were saying, "Bring on another presenter," and I was like, "I want to, but it needs to be someone incredible. Like I want someone extraordinary." And I actually, so Rack and I went to the same school. We weren't there at the same time, I don't think. He's a bit older. But I'd heard about the legend of Martin Heppell, and there's all these stories about him, infamous stories, what he's like at school. Like some of the most outrageous stuff you've ever heard. And he's just like smiling and nodding right now going, yep, that's definitely me. And I went and played played in the old boys football team. And there was a rumor going around that Martin Heppell was going to come and play a season with us. And so Martin and I had a season together playing footy, and it was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. You've never met a more outrageously positive and enthusiastic footballer in your entire life. Anyway, it is one of the great privileges of my life to work with Martin Heppell. He's hundreds of thousands of people around Australia have seen him and have heard him present. It's a unique brand of presentation style. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. You feel like you've been for a run afterwards, or you feel like you want to go for a run afterwards. It's one of the two. But he's just an incredible man. And one of the great things about Rack is that, when he came into the Resilience Project to talk about gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness, he lives and breathes it better than anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. Rack is the one who taught me to say to people that I love you. Like early on, and we had this small office at Resilience Project, just me and him there. He'd leave at the end of the day and go, "I love you, mate." And that was vulnerable back then. So I'd go, "God, good on you, mate. Thank you. That's good." But it's now second nature for me to tell the people I love them, and it's because of Rack. So I'm very, very excited to have him because he's had a big impact on my life. So it's great. All jokes aside, I'm absolutely thrilled that we've got him in the Vulnerability house for today.
Yeah, so excited. Now, Rack, it's fun to say it. Rack, you aware of how the Vulnerability house works? Have you been briefed?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that's a no.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
you'd be forgiven for not understanding how it works because we've completely made it up not too long ago. So it's not like it should be a well-known concept. But essentially, the reason it exists is to give us an excuse to be vulnerable in some way, and so and to talk about something that maybe we wouldn't feel comfortable talking about or haven't maybe talked about before. And so we've got this deck of cards, and on these cards are different questions, and those questions are filled with things that are supposed to sort of invoke some sort of vulnerable story or memory or something that's, I mean, you'll see. And so essentially, usually, if we were in the same room, you would pick 3 of these cards and lay them out, read out the questions, and then pick the one that speaks to you the most or the one that you feel comfortable answering. But Hugh, I think you have the cards. I'm hoping you have the cards.
I do have the cards here.
Great.
So I'll, if you are feeling ready, Martin, I'll read you out 3 questions and you can pick one to answer.
Yeah.
Knowing you, you'll probably just answer all 3 in like a machine gun, rapid fire type scenario. But so you do what you want with these questions. You do what you want. Okay, so question number 1. Okay, this is not quite a positive one. Question number 1, what is your proudest moment? Question number 2, what event from your childhood has changed you? And question number 3, what is your biggest regret?
Yeah, I mean, I could do all 3 real quick if you want, but I suppose for me, the one that
it's not a competition.
Yeah, I think that I've learned. I think for me, the greatest gift that I've ever been given is from my mother and my father, the ability to know that when you stuff up, make a mistake, fail, and it's okay. It's okay to talk about it, but also that a lot of the time, sometimes when you're a kid, you define failure when it isn't in fact a failure. Like it's out of your means, out of your control. And I suppose for me, when I hear that question, the biggest impact that I've had, and it's been a positive impact, but initially it was traumatic, was I suppose an incident or a couple of incidents occurred to me when I was growing up. So to be real brief, I had a different upbringing because my father's an anthropologist, and he was over in the UK. My mum's American, dad's English.
Hang on. So sorry. What are? Did you say your parents? What do they do?
Yeah. So my dad's an anthropologist. So he studies the culture of human beings. Right. So, and mum and him. My dad wanted to study a head-hunting tribe. They're called the Iban. They're Dayaks, and they live in Borneo. And mum and dad went and lived with them for about 3 years and studied the tribe.
Did you say a head hunting tribe?
Yeah, head hunting. Yeah. So I mean, like, so if they had a Barney with another tribe, there was no peer mediation session or let's get an external representative to run a conflict resolution process. It was on. So what would happen would be they'd go out and then the other tribe members would come home without a head. Yeah, and so I know it's a little bit
hang on.
full on.
Yeah, it's a little bit full on. Just. I mean, maybe it's been normalised for you, Rack, but I feel like there could be like a grey area between. Yeah. So hang on. So your parents. Let me just catch up. I feel like this is going to be a long tea house. So your parents were part of this tribe.
Well, they
in Borneo.
Yeah, lived with them for about in the late 60s for 3 years, and then my brother and I were born, and then they took us.
Sorry, Rax. I'm just trying to get my head around how culpable your parents are for this headhunting. The tribe goes out. And are your parents like shoulder to shoulder with them?
No,
like let's get that bloody head.
No, they're not. They weren't coming home with a trophy and going yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't like that. They were
getting
studying
selfies.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They were studying basically, I suppose, the way the tribe would interact, why the tribe acted the way it did, its cultural beliefs, etc. And then from there it merged into parenting because what they saw was the irony was that these guys were pretty brutal, but in terms of the way they brought up their kids, it was so loving and the tribe was, I suppose, that the only way they knew they could survive was by looking after each other, by displaying empathy because they couldn't have any splinters, so to speak, and they needed each other to get through. And then, but like my mum and dad, they always spoke to me about their failures when I was growing up, and like to the point where we came back to Canberra and dad's in Canberra and he was working for the government and he was on the Aboriginal Housing Commission and he found out that the money that was supposed to be going to the Aboriginal Housing Commission wasn't going there. So in his wisdom, he went on the record and leaked it to the press. And then Malcolm Fraser blacklisted him and he couldn't get any, work for the following sort of 3 years. And, everyone's telling him to go back to the UK. And so they dug up the nature strip, they dug up the backyard, and we had a cardboard box as a dining room table and mum and dad just lived off what they grew in the backyard. And they were unashamed of that.
Wow.
And they'd tell us these stories all the time. So for my brother and I, and in particular me being the older one, I could always talk to mum and dad about anything that I was worried about or that I felt that was not right. And so for me, when it really came to the fore, was we were back in Melbourne and we grew up in Hawthorn, so inner city Melbourne.
That is amazing.
And my brother and I would go down to the local park.
Not the Hawthorn bit, the bit before that. Hawthorn's not that amazing.
I know.
But...
Well, look, when people meet me, they go, this bloke could never live in Hawthorn. He's the biggest bogan going around. Like, come on, mate. We don't let this bloke anywhere near Glenfreda Road. But anyway, so my brother and I, we had, like, I'd go back and relive my childhood in a heartbeat. We had the best fun. Like, we had this street called Harcourt Street, and it had 13 pools in a row, like swimming pools. And we'd call it the Harcourt Street Pool Run. And we'd jump in the pool, get out, jump in the pool, get out, jump in the pool. And it was wicked. And we'd also then...
13 pools?
Yeah, and 2 of them had Dobermans, and it was on. When you jump the fence...
in the house.
And you're in the backyard, the Dobermans come, that's when your adrenaline would go and say, Hammy, hold on. Just keep me going, Hammy. And then you jump the fence, do a horsey, and then we'd go down the park, and we'd kick the footy, and that's...
Hang on. So did you jump over your neighbour's fence
Yeah.
into the pool, then into the the next fence into
and
the
you
next.
And so it was my brother and another bloke seals, and you had one bloke watching if any cops were coming around the front.
Classic pool run.
The other bloke would run with you to make sure you did the horsey, because if you didn't do the horsey, you got eliminated. It was disqualified. All right. So but then we would go down to the park and we'd kick the footy and we'd do sliding chest marks in the mud. Yeah.
Rack, I can't begin to tell you how different my childhood was from yours. Like, I don't even know where to start. I mean,
I'm
so in awe of this. This is amazing.
But then
it sounds incredible.
No, it was great. And when we were in Borneo, we'd go hunting for wild boar with blowpipes. It was sick. But
yeah, of course.
But anyway, getting off all the tangents, that's background. But we'd go down to the park, my brother and I, and we loved going down to the local park, and we'd kick the footy, and we'd do that till it was pitch black. And Mum would come down, it'd be 8:30 at night, and we'd be still kicking the footy, and we knew how to climb a tower and turn on the lights. And she'd always say to us, you're going to electrocute yourself one night, and we'd come home and go, well, we didn't tonight, Mum, so chin up, yeah? And one night we were down there, and I was busting. I was with one of my best mates at the time, Kalen. I went to the toilet. And I'm not saying this is right, but I was in grade 2 and I was busting, so I went to the toilet behind a tree. And
you're only in grade 2 so far. Are we only up to grade 2? Oh, jeez.
Oh, hang on. The pool run was a little bit later. A little bit later.
Okay.
A little bit later.
Oh, God.
But, I jumped in and we couldn't swim. We had a lifeguard and they were getting us out. But anyway, I went down there and I went behind a tree and Kalen was kicking the footy, and I went to the tree and I was going to the toilet, and then I think I was like grade 2. I was 7 years of age because I was born late in the year, and out of the blue, this bloke came out of nowhere, and I don't know how old he was, been about 30 in his 40s, and I was in a really uncomfortable position. I was going to the toilet, and it's heavy, and I apologise to the listeners, but I think the end, hopefully if you hang in there, the end of the story is the reason why I'm sharing it. But he then started doing things to me that I wish he never did. And so I was looking around and I was going, man, like, when your breath gets sucked out of you, you can't breathe. And I was like that. And I was looking for Kalen going, where are you? I need you right now, okay? Where are you? And Kalen finally came back and he yelled out and the guy got spooked. And so Kalen and I walked across the park. His mum, Jeannie Shaw, an absolute superstar, picked us up in a brown old school Jaguar. And I remember driving up Victoria Road back to their house, and we told her. And I was sort of, I was so uncomfortable but awkward, did not know how to react. And we were sort of laughing. I mean, I'm 7 years of age. And so we told Jeannie, and then Jeannie was like, hey, this is not something to laugh about. We went back, told my mum and my dad. And I told them everything. The police came round. I told them everything. Had to do the sketch, when a bloke comes in and they go, what does he look like? And you do the sketch of the person. And I didn't know what happened, but I know my dad at that stage had done some work with the police department. I'm not saying this is right, but I think when they did eventually catch up with the gentleman, I don't know, the yellow pages came out and stuff like that. Anyway, we went away, not because of that. We went away.
Sorry, what do you mean by the yellow pages?
I think when the police caught up with this bloke, the story went that they said g'day to him, so to speak.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and this is, I'm not saying this is right. This is in 1982.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And so then Dad gets a job about, I don't know, maybe 2 years later, and we're in Jakarta. So we go to an international school in Jakarta, and then we come back, and I come back to Carey in year 8. And I'm in year 8 walking the dogs with my brother Mao down Rathmines Road in Hawthorne, right at the front of Auburn Primary. And this bloke, he comes up again. He's come out of nowhere and he's walking up to me.
Same guy?
Yeah, same guy. I'm going, you're kidding me. It's him. And I didn't say this to Mao, but he's walked straight up to me and he's pointed at me.
Sorry, Rack.
Yeah.
So how old are you here?
I'm about probably year 8, so now I'm about 13, turning 14.
Oh my God!
He pointed at my chest and he goes, "Are you Martin Heppell?" And I was looking at him and I was just like, "No, I'm not Martin Heppell. I don't know Martin Heppell." He goes, do you know, you look, I think you're Martin Heppell. I said, mate, I'm not Martin Heppell. I don't know Martin Heppell. Haven't got a clue who you're talking about. And now my brother's probably about 5 meters away, and I'm just looking at him going, please don't come over and say, why are you lying? And then the guy looked at me and said, will you tell Martin Heppell that I'm trying to find him? I'm trying to find him. And I said, okay, I don't know who he is.
Oh my God.
But all right, mate. Anyway, so then he walked off. I grabbed Mal by the scruff of the neck and we ran I just said, mate, we run like the wind. We ran home, told mum and dad, went through it all again. And but then that's all done and dusted. And I've never lost an ounce of sleep over it. And I've never lost an ounce of sleep over it because of all the positive emotions that I've had down at that park and in my childhood. But then I go back to university. I'm 31 years of age, and I've got 3 weeks left to go.
So when sorry to jump in, keep jumping in, but so when you say you haven't lost an ounce of sleep over it, do you mean by that like it hasn't affected you?
No,
the trauma hasn't affected you.
It hasn't. I'll come back. I'll loop back to that. Yeah, but
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm 31 years of age. And I walk in and I've got 3 weeks left to go of my Melbourne University teaching degree. So 3 weeks and I'm done. I'm graduated. And I walk into the boys' toilets at Melbourne University and there's a bloke in there cleaning them and it's him. And as soon as I saw his head, I was like, oh, mate, I know who you are. And my emotions just in that moment, I'm just not proud of it, but they started to rage and I was on. And so
wow.
I was saying to myself, well, when you met me when I was in grade 2 and when and I saw you in year 8, I couldn't do anything about it. But now that I'm 31, I can't fight. I can't fight to save my life, but that's where I was. And so I remember vividly, I even went outside and I even looked up around the buildings for CCTV footage. I was like, I'm going in there and I don't want any witnesses to where my mind is right now for what this man had done to me when I was a kid.
Oh
and then I started breathing. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I started walking towards the door and then I stopped in my tracks and I said to myself, what on earth are you doing, mate? It's done. It's over. And so I turned around, I went back to my bike and I got my bike and I rode back home down Johnson Street. And to this day, like the reason why I'm okay with it, the reason why I've been able to never lose an ounce of sleep, the reason why last year, before we were living in Hawthorne, I took my son who's 6 years of age, and we're down at that park every night. And he went up. He went up behind the tree and did a bush wee, as he calls them, behind the same tree where it occurred.
Oh
and right there and then when I saw it happen, I was like, I knew what was going on, but I'm okay with it because when it did occur, I didn't fail. I didn't. I know I didn't. But when I was 7 years of age, I did define it as such. I was like, that shouldn't have happened. I let it happen. And I know that I didn't let it happen, but that's where my mindset was. And I did not fail. But my mindset initially was that. But because my mum and dad had always opened the door previously, they'd always shared with me their failures, I knew I could go straight up to them and tell them, because I told them, because I told the police, because I got support. I got the external support that I needed when I was in grade 2. I got the external support that I needed when I was in year 8, because then when I was 31, because I'd had all that background, that support, that growth, and we talk about post-traumatic growth all the time, like I firmly believe that I did have that, because if I had done anything to that bloke and I have a criminal record, then I can't teach ever. And I love teaching.
Wow.
That's what I love. So when Hugh and I are doing our gigs, our presentations, one of the things that I see all the time, and Hugh, I'm tipping, does as well, but is that for many, many kids, they don't want to talk because they fear the judgment. They don't want to talk because they're worried about consequences. They don't want to talk because status. They don't want to talk because of an impact, whatever it may be. And what I try and articulate to parents and to teachers is that if 65% of kids are not talking, which is what we are being told, then we don't know. But if 65% of kids are not talking, then there's something going on. So are we part of the problem? Not the Resilience Project, but adults, or are we part of the solution? And so it's about knowing that if you open the door, and I'm not saying get heavy, like I haven't told my kids about what I went through. I haven't told my kids about what I'm talking to you about now. And I've got no issue with them knowing. I've got no issue with anyone knowing. I've got no dramas. But, and I'm not saying that everyone should be the same as me. I'm only purely talking for what my experience was, and then obviously the reaction I've had to it since. But if we open the door, then people walk through it. And that's a gift. It's a gift to allow another human being, an adult, a parent, whoever it may be, a kid, to be able to walk through the door and know that they can talk about something that is full on, that is heavy, that is minuscule, doesn't matter what it is, but they know that when they share that information, there won't be judgment, there won't be consequences that are negative, status won't be impacted, and that, you know what? Now that we know we can help you, and we know that if we do help you, or if I can go outsource that with an external person who's got the skill set that I don't possibly have, then we get that support, we get that growth, and we might be able to also, if needed, have some internal healing. And so for me, the gift that I've got is that I do what my mum and dad have done for me, I try and do for every kid that I teach, and for my own kids, and for any of my mates who I love and would do anything for. And that is, I talk about my failures, probably from a lot of point of view, too much, because like no, whatever. Like if something happens and it's an embarrassing moment, I'm like, yes. Yeah. This is going to be the best story. Like, this is going to be unreal. You know, like one time I was doing a gig for the kids and I was ripping it up, dancing with them. And I did this, you know, I thought it was a massive jump, but it was like a 2-centimeter jump and my pants ripped. And so for the rest of the gig, I was like a penguin just standing there because I'm thinking I'm in a school, probably not cool, you know, having a hole in your pants and you got your undies hanging out and all that type of stuff. So, but like I got out of that situation. I'm driving home and I'm often ringing Hugh or whoever it may be. So you wouldn't believe what happened. It allows you to be able to know that, you know, pardon the pun, but you're imperfect. It allows you to know that you are flawed. It allows you to know that despite you being both of those, which is awesome, but sometimes if you haven't been able to come around to the fact that it is awesome, to realise how long that journey is, that it's okay, man, that you're normal.
In that, thanks for sharing that, Rack.
That's all right.
That is
I've been in the audience before when you've told that. I remember the first time you told that story. I had no idea that it happened, and I was blown away by it for a few reasons. But just listening to you speak there, I can't help but think about the first time that Brené Brown appeared on Oprah Winfrey, and they were talking about the topic of shame. And Oprah Winfrey said, with shame, she said, it's not so much the act. She said, if you talk about someone who's experienced a survivor of sexual assault, it's not so much the act that just kills them, but it's the shame that comes with it. And then Brené Brown said, yeah, that's why you've got to speak shame. You've got to talk about it. But it's a bloody hard thing to do as a kid. Your parents, I just have so much, I'm just in awe of the environment they created.
Yeah,
I feel happy for you, and then I feel sad for other people who have had awful things happen to them, but just don't feel like they've had a safe space to go.
Yeah, I mean,
because for you, because you just said just then, like you felt like you'd failed, you felt like it was your fault. As a 7-year-old, that's what you're thinking. If you hadn't told your parents for many years, you probably would have carried that thought in your head. It was my fault. It happened. I'm a bad person. But the second you told your parents, I'm guessing you understood very quickly that it actually wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything.
And I think that's the hard thing. Is that it's the external factor that you can't control. I had an external factor get put in play and I couldn't control it. I couldn't. I was 7 years of age. I couldn't do anything about it. But then because you know it's an external factor that you can't control, and I'm not. Hey, everyone reacts differently. But for me, it was through the support of professionals, through the support of my parents and others, I was able to then be able to identify that and recognize that, hey, man, it's an external thing you didn't control. All right, so let's go. And I think the other thing that really support, and it's overarching, is that my mum and my dad have always really empowered my brother and I to be comfortable in your own skin and to know that you're different, and to applaud that, to not I suppose, ever fear being different. My dad, we went to Carey and we had a hold in Kingswood that everyone called the Flintstones mobile because you could see the ground whilst you're driving. Like, no word of a lie. We went around the roundabout one time and we were playing corners, and one of my mates went out. He went out the door, and seriously, Mum, ice cool. Like, I don't know if you saw Bailey Smith do the ice in the veins thing, but my mum, she owns it because, do you know what? She didn't hesitate. She did another rotation of the roundabout, just kept on going around, then stopped to where that person was rolling around, opened the door, chucked them in, and then we kept on going. But they would turn up to Carey, and my dad would be wearing a pink and purple Doona Nepalese tracksuit bottom that he got in Kathmandu when he was working over there. He'd have this Afghan jacket that was made out of camel hair that he got when he was working over in Kazakhstan and elsewhere. And, and I just see them, and my mum and dad have always been so comfortable in their own skin, but also one thing that I learned from them is comfortable going against the grain.
Oh, I love it.
And that's the toughest thing to do in the world, man, is when you are the only one going against the grain. But not to do it deliberately, but if it's aligned with your morals and your values, you stand firm and you go against the grain. Don't just conform. Don't conform because that's what everyone else is doing. You be your own man and you go for it. And if you can look yourself in the mirror and say that's what you did, and you did it because of your morals and your values, and you stand firm and you do it again. And so for my mum and dad, they gave my brother and I that gift. And that gift is why I think that episode of my life has given me strength. I think it's been, like, in a weird way, man, it has been a gift because it's allowed me to be passionate about teaching kids that they are okay, that they are normal, that if they're going through some hard times, that we're with you, we feel your pain, but you know what? We're going to support you. There's ways out of this. It's not going to be easy. It can be done though. Yeah. But if you don't talk about that, then we can't help you. But you know what? When you talk, I'll tell you what, man, we've got your back. Like, we have got your back. And you know that when you talk, man, you are walking side by side with me. And when those kids know that, then they step up to the plate. But when they don't know that, man, like, for all of us, we're not going to do it because it's the fear, it's the uncertainty, it's the unknown. Yeah. And because I think for me, because I've been through that experience so many times, I'm not talking about what I shared with you before, just other experiences where you got to go against the grain, where it's uncomfortable, where it's uncertain, where it's vulnerable, yeah? But you come out the other side, you embrace it because you know that there are positive things to occur. And when you're lucky enough to have those positive experiences, that then gives you the inner belief to not be uncomfortable in those situations again when we're in the future. Like, they're always going to be uncomfortable. You're always going to be shitting yourself when you're doing something new. But you're in it going, you know what, this is new. And it could go pear-shaped. But you know what else? It could be awesome, man. Like, this could be out of control, you know? So when I'm in those situations, I'm thinking 5% it could go pear-shaped here. And you know what? It possibly could. And if it does, you'll deal with it. But my 95% is going, if this goes where it could go, anything could happen here, and we are on. Like, we are on.
I can back that up. I can back that, Rack, with your presentations, the presentations that you do. Like, so for years now, how long have you been in the Resilience Project for? Is it like 6 or 7 years now?
6.
Yeah, 6 years.
I think this is coming up end of 6 years. 6 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I have lost count of the amount of presentations we've done to everyone, but especially to kids in schools. And there was a stage of the way the program worked, we'd both go out to the same school and present. And I'd do my safe kind of presentation, like I just go with my shtick. It's my normal thing. And you'd get up on stage and I just never knew what you were going to say. And I reckon I heard you do 6 presentations in a row where you're pulling out these stories that I'd go, what on earth is he talking about? Or you'd get kids up onto stage and you'd start dancing with them. And I'd see this stuff and I'd go, this is the most courageous. Like, whenever I ad-lib a little bit, I get a bit nervous going, oh, what are you doing? You could stuff this up massively. I've never seen anyone be happier you take so many risks with your presentations and you take in all different directions, but unerringly you bring it back to I mean, there are sometimes I have seen you fail. I've seen you fail sometimes, but I've never seen anyone so comfortable with it before. Like it's you straight away. You're totally fine with it, and I've learnt so much from watching you present over the years. It's the way you live your life, but I definitely see it in your presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I think letting go of control is one of the greatest gifts that you can have and give to anyone, because especially with kids, when you let go of control, it's beautiful. Like, it doesn't always work, but they take you to places that you've never been before. Like, if you want stone cold honesty, let go of control and get a kid up on the mic in front of everyone and let them speak. And sometimes I get the kids speak, and they speak from their heart, and some of the stuff is better than what I could ever say. And therefore, and it's automatically more powerful. But what you do is, by letting go of control, is that you learn from the kids as well. You know, you learn that things work and things that don't work. But when we play it safe is control. Safe never has growth. You've got a ceiling. You're doing the same stuff. So what I enjoy is that whenever I'm doing those things, like you're referring to the presentations, that when I've got a kid up with a mic, I don't know where it's going to go, and I love it. But also, what I'm trying to do is model to any parents, teachers in the audience that empower this kid. Like, let them roll. Like, I had a gig out at I'm not going to say where, in a loose part of town, okay? And the bloke came in, year nines, all right? So year nines, they're ready to roll, and I could just see that he was the one who's going to come after me. Yeah. And I was like, wicked. So I went up to him, and the teacher specifically said to me, don't give them any voice. Like, don't give them any voice. So I went up to him and gave him the mic. I said, mate, you doing beatbox? Are you doing beatbox? He's like, looking at me, and he's going, yeah, bruh. I was like, no worries, man. Hey, drop him. Here's the mic. So he just started doing beatbox to everyone as they came in. And I was sitting there, like, just rolling with it, going, this bloke, he's dropping beats thick and heavy. Have a look at him. We got the B-boy in the house. And then I was yelling, I had another microphone. He was doing the beats and I was doing the rap, and I can't rap to save myself. And I was sitting there going, this is unreal. But lo and behold, you wouldn't believe it, I had that kid eating out of my hand, man. Why? Because I just gave him a bit of power. I said, I trust you. Here it is, mate. Take the mic. Go for it. And he could have burnt me. And if I do it again, another kid might. But just back him in.
It's. I mean, I'm so like moved, blown away by what I feel like what has just happened. I feel like we've got 3 different types of episodes on this podcast, and I feel like we've just got all 3 in one. Like, it's like
I've been thinking the same thing. I've been thinking the exact same thing.
It's everything. I just think, like, we're so lucky. We're so lucky to have you. Seriously, so lucky to have you. Well, we really are. You can just understand how lucky I feel that Rack is going out to our schools. The one thing I'll just say is that your parents, like, I mean, all parents deserve awards of some sort, but I feel like your parents should be winning something significant, because, like, to do what they've done, it's
to manage Mal and Martin Heppell. That is honestly, I don't understand how they've done it. I really don't.
Like, seriously, when we come out of lockdown, don't be in the pub when Mel and I rock on up for the first time. Like, just don't be in that pub.
I would argue that you should be there, because just pull up a seat.
I don't want to be anywhere else.
Put up a stool, bring popcorn, which is a weird thing to do in a pub. It is actually a terrific. I just had this feeling we should get Martin back to do an Academy of Imperfection and just let him roll, because this is like a tenth of this is like a fifth of the stuff that he comes. Honestly, like, there's just so much more.
Quickly changed from a tenth to a fifth.
Oh yeah, sorry.
This is a tenth. Oh, actually, it's probably half. It's probably he's probably got another 10 minutes. I reckon probably got 10 more minutes of good stuff. I reckon.
What I meant was, we've only seen a small portion of what he delivers, and in my head I was like, it's actually a very, very small portion of what he delivers. Anyway, I started off talking about how Martin would say to me, we'd sort of known each other for a while, but not that well. But we got to know each other pretty quickly when we travelled we had a trip to Canberra together to visit a few really, really rough and ready high schools up there. I'll never, ever forget that. But we sort of got to know each other very well, very quickly. And as I said at the start, he would always say to me, "I love you, mate," when he was leaving. And I was just in awe of that. And I think I'd always go, "Oh, thanks, mate. I love you." Like it was just like I didn't really own it. I'm pretty happy that I do now. But just to round this whole thing out, Martin sent me a video the other day. One of the things Martin often does is in fact, you can tell the story about how you've got your mates on speed dial. Can you fill that one in before we finish?
I always ring my mates and just, go through it and work out which one I haven't spoken to, and they've worked out the order, and I ring them up and I tell them that I love them. And I'd always know when their kids are in the car with them because they always say, "You're on speakerphone, you're on speakerphone, you're on speakerphone." It's like, so I'm like, "All right, mate, I'll pipe it down." But at the start, they thought, "What the hell's going on?" And now,
No, but I don't think you've explained it well enough. He's got a rotation of like 12 mates that he calls them every day. He calls one of them on the way home from work to let them know that he loves them. And just goes through his rotation of mates all the way through. And it's so good.
That's amazing.
But I try and model it, like when we do Gem TV, which is a show we do for the kids during lockdown. I did this one where I tried to model it, and I filmed it obviously for the kids. I'm ringing up to my mates, and one of them, and this is the most important thing about that real quick, is that one of them, I didn't know it, but he needed it that day because something had happened, which I obviously didn't know about, and he needed to hear that I loved him. Then the other one never, he's alpha male, never tells anyone that he loves them, and so I was trying to get him to model, say it the first time, and I got him, and it was huge. Like I went off when I got him, but I mean, that's a real.
What about your parents, though? What about your parents?
So I did it with the parents. So then I rang my parents, and I did it last week for Gym TV. I go, hey, Dad, I love you. And Dad, English accent. He go, Dad, I love you. He goes, terrific. Now listen, did you get my email? And I go, Dad, did you hear what I said? I said that I love you. And then he goes, oh, for Christ's sakes, Martin, you're the centre of my admiration. Now, for Christ's sake, did you get my email? Right? And so then I was like, stuff you, Dad. Get Mum on the phone. Get off the phone. Bloody hell. And I'm still filming this for the kids. I go, and Mum comes on the phone with her American accent. I go, hey, Mum, how are you? Hey, Mum, I love you. And she just goes, ditto, and then hangs up on me. And that was it.
Oh, jeez.
And so you can't win them all. Like you can't. So,
That's
but anyway,
so good.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I love
Okay,
that.
well,
I love that.
Okay, so I think we just need to lock Rack in for Academy of Perfection at some point because, I mean, every time I spend time with Martin, I just feel like I genuinely mean this, I'm a much better person for knowing Martin. Like the thing you said about your values and living your values, that's not just talk. Like I've never seen anyone walk it like you do, Rack, and I've become a better person from that.
Mate, vice versa. Vice versa.
So I think we need to get him back on so we can just, and we won't say anything. We'll just hand it over to you.
No, don't do that.
You can
do not do that. That won't go well. That won't go well. No.
But Rack, thank you so much. I don't even know how to. I'm just so happy that I feel like even though I'm on Zoom, so happy that I witnessed that. It's like a tragic story, but the way that you tell that story, I mean, as soon as you got to that bit when you were 7 and you were telling the start of the story, I immediately felt really guilty about being funny before it, like trying to make jokes and stuff before it.
No, don't, mate.
But
not at all.
But I think the way that you do what you do, and I've never seen you speak before. Like we've never met. Like I said, Hughes spoke so much about you, but I feel like I want to come and see one of your talks now really badly because that was like, I feel like I was trying to think of how we could change the name of this episode to like maybe this is a work in progress, but maybe like the Motivation House because it was kind of motivational. Motivation.
That's good. Do you know Rack used to have a job as the Triple M motivator? So he would go out. So it was when Peter Hellier was doing Drive in the morning.
Oh, really? Doing the breakfast
Rack
show?
Would go out. Yeah. Rack would go out to. So the story goes, I believe, Rack did a best man speech at his best mate's wedding, and Peter Hellier was there. Peter Heller couldn't believe what he'd just seen because it wasn't like giving your best mate shit. Rack just pumped up his best mate for 10 minutes flat out. And Peter Heller said, you should join us. And so Rack would go out to work sites and on Monday mornings and give people a 10-minute rev up. And then he'd go to work himself. So you'd be very on brand to be motivate. No, that's a difficult one to say. Even harder than vulnerability.
It's not right. It's not right. I just wanted to plant the seed and we can work on it later. But yeah, it's something. Rack, thank you so much, mate. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time.
Good on you, Rack. Thanks, mate. And I think we're all better for hearing you speak. And thank you for sharing that story. I know that you're in a good place with it all, but I'm sure every time you relive it, I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to do. So
no, I just want to stress though, like for other people who've experienced similar things, I'm not saying that they should be feeling what I'm feeling. Like this is my story. This is what happened to me. And this is what occurred afterwards. So by no stretch of the imagination, like for other people, like it's horrific. It is bloody horrific. but know that you are phenomenal, that you're awesome, that you are a wonderful human being. And if there ever is a stage that you'd like to seek some support, it's out there for you. And if you're willing to do that, it might support you further. But yeah, but I was just want to stress that because I don't want to come on here and this is how everyone should react. It's not. It's what happened to me.
Yep.
So, but thanks for your time.
Cheers, Rack. Thank you, mate.
So much, mate.